What if I told you that 33% of contracts were falling out before they closed? So in that 30 to 45 day window, something is going on. This is not only concerning, but it is also a major opportunity, and we're going to talk about all of that next. What's up, guys? Jeremy Kane, eXp Realty, living in the Denver suburbs on YouTube, coming to you guys across all social media channels, talking about this really interesting phenomenon that's occurring in our Denver market. And I talk about things on the market, property tours, show my listings, do a lot of things on this channel and on these social media channels. So please like, comment, subscribe, check out IGJKCO Realtor _. We're on TikTok even, so check me out. I would love the engagement, and if you have a more favorite platform than you're watching on right now, definitely give me a follow and give me a shout out over there. So let's talk about this. 33%, and this statistic's been between 30 and 35% for a couple months now. And this is something that Megan Aller from First American Title reports on often. She's putting together reports on this for us as real estate agents to bring to you, the consumer. And when you really think about that, 1 in 3 contracts, and I will be honest with you, some of the markets are still in multiple offer situations and so on. And so when we're seeing these contracts fall out, we first want to look at, okay, what's going on, right? Why is this happening? And, throughout the contract process, there's a few, right? Before an inspection even happens, that's usually, some sort of buyer's remorse, or, maybe they were, offering on multiple properties, which is a violation of the good faith clause in the contract here in Colorado. However, when these properties fall out, it's typically something along those lines, or maybe something happened with the lot line, or something that came from the seller's property disclosure, or something like that before the actual inspection takes place, right? All of this is still technically inspection time period in the property. Then the most common time is after the inspection, something comes up. Usually, if there's only a couple things, buyers, sellers can work together and get that taken care of. Inspection items are definitely a thing in our current market and our current temperature. So, for a while there, 2020, 2021, buyers were, really limiting the things that they would even ask for before they had an inspection. Hopefully not, but some people even did not do an inspection. Key point here, always do an inspection as a buyer. It actually is a benefit to everybody involved in the transaction. So there's no surprises, because when surprises happen down the road and you don't do your due diligence or aren't reminded to, then lawsuits and things happen, and that's not usually ideal. So inspections are definitely key. They protect the seller almost as much as they protect the buyer usually. So we're having these inspections, and this is a time period where the buyer can be in the home a little bit longer than the 15, 30, 60 minutes that they had the showing. So that's one piece of it. But you're also coming up with things, and people start to think, okay, what are the costs? What are the, I'm taking on this mortgage with this high interest rate right now. And so it's a legitimate time where a lot of contracts fall out of place. Now, 1 in 3, that seems a little aggressive to me, but it kind of is what it is. So now that we're talking about inspections, the inspection process in Colorado, you hire an inspector, they go through. The inspection for the buyer is absolutely just as much of an educational process as a way to get one back on the seller, so to speak, if you're in a bidding war or something. I always tell my clients you should attend at least a summary at the end, know where your water shutoff is, know the size of your air filter, know all kinds of things, not to mention things that are, coming towards the end of their lifespan, all of those things. So contracts have always fallen out at this stage. Next, kind of hurdle in the contract process, the HOA documents and title documents, that's a very rare occurrence where those things fall out. And then you have the loan, right? If something happens with the loan, this has always been a percentage of our fallout in the contracts. And so that's kind of where these contracts are falling apart. But 33% right? And a lot of them are happening at weird times, different times. Property insurance deadlines coming up as a time when properties are falling out because property insurances are going up so much and so on. So that's kind of where they fall out. So the truth is, tips for you as a buyer, as a seller, when you're going under contract as a seller, we want to really focus in on what the whole body of work looks like. Granted, the dollars, the cents, the offer is great, but what happens, if it's a certain type of loan, if the, lender doesn't have all the things. So really, have your agent vet that out. Make sure you're looking at all options. I always tell people that cash is king, especially on the day that closing happens. All the money that comes in, whether it's an FHA, VA, USDA, conventional, non-QM, or cash, spends the same exact way after the deal is funded than it would any other way. So some of the hate towards the government loans and things like that, I'm not super in love with, but you can check out another video for that. So when an offer comes in, check that lending stuff, and then kind of, get a feel for what's going on. How aggressive were they? What, were they, in negotiations? That's a huge piece. And just understand that you can't just totally, blow it off. You can't pack all their bags and get rid of the staging the day you go under contract. So have this in mind, be aware of this as, you're taking your house off the market and, maybe not allowing backup offers or showings or whatever. That's the first part. As a buyer, understand that, this contract is a lot more than just a, couple dates thrown out there. You'll deliver the earnest money whenever. A contract is a contract. And as the market tightens, it's a lot less likely that there's many people just waiting, right? We're in 2 to 3 to 5 offers, maybe, sometimes not even. I was actually at a thing this week and the agents were saying how they had multiple offers on week 3 and 4. So the multiple offer thing has kind of gone away. But what that means is that you as a buyer have to really be careful with those contract dates and deadlines and make sure that you're not just, laissez-faire terminating contracts, because it's not like the seller just has somebody else to go to and they're like, here you go, release the earnest money, let's go. So as a buyer, you need to make sure you understand those deadlines, understand what, an inspection is and what are you going into it. And this comes back to when you offer, make sure you're offering the right, thing that you want to offer. Don't go too crazy. Don't go way over. Don't get caught up in the emotions. Look at the comparables. If your agent isn't sending you comparables, I don't care if it's a bidding war or not. If your agent isn't sending you comparables, you need a new agent because you need to know at least what you're getting into. Even if you're going way over or whatever, you need to know that. So as a buyer, just do your due diligence on the front end and understand and educate yourself as you move through the process and understand what's coming up and what that looks like. And so as we kind of move through, we went through the reasons. Now, how do we avoid contracts falling out as a seller? There's a couple ways you can do this. Definitely pre-inspections, looking at what's going on. I just had somebody call me today and he said there's some structural stuff. I went down there and shored it up. I'll just get a structural engineer's report. That way we have it. It's all out on the table. If you have a pre-inspection or that there's something that might come up, consider a concession or consider putting it out there and saying, yeah, we are going to do this or we're not going to do this, but plan ahead, because once you're under contract, it is nice because you know how much you're going to sell it for, but a bad furnace and a bad AC could scare a buyer away and put you back to square one. Whereas if the furnace and the AC are, leaking carbon monoxide, hopefully not, but if they're at the end or they're, not working correctly, maybe just go ahead and get new ones and replace them, because that will become a selling point versus a possible transaction failure. And the next thing is make sure you're pricing the property accurately. This is absolutely huge. A lot of agents have gotten used to pricing a little bit low and getting these bidding wars. That's where people kind of have drawbacks and holdbacks, because at the end of the day, your list price is probably, to the buyer what the seller thinks it's worth. And so if you're pricing it 25, 30, 50 under value, which some agents suggest, and it gets bid up, then all of a sudden they're paying $100,000 more than the listing or the listing agent or the seller thought it was worth, and that plays mind games. So that could lead to some buyer's remorse. So all of this goes into that as a seller. As a buyer, be prepared, right? Be prepared, be realistic on what could come. Understand that if you're looking at first-time homes in their 50s, 60s builds, whatever it is, 40s, some of them, understand there's going to be some pieces to that, but getting into that home is absolutely massive. And your home is not a brand new home. Even if you buy a home that's 5 years old, there will be things that will be coming due, and it's not really the seller's responsibility, right? If the water heater is nearing the end of its lifespan, but it's working and it's pouring out hot water and it's not leaking, gas into your house, then that's a good thing, but it's just part of home ownership and it's going to come up. There is insurance, there is warranties, there's things you can do to prepare if you're on a really tight budget, as I totally get it, but have these preparations done. Communicate clearly, right? Don't put something in a contract that's a little bit sketchy, right? I'm actually not gonna, I'm only gonna object to health and safety concerns. Well, every single thing in a house that goes wrong could be turned as a health and safety concern. So clear and concise amendments or additions to the contract are absolutely huge. A lot of people have gotten used to using these and they're plugging them in, and here we go. So now you've waited all this time. Who's the opportunity here for? If you are a buyer in a low price point or a competitive price point and you miss out on that deal on opening weekend, submit a backup offer, go in backup position. There is many opportunities where dream houses will come back on the market because of one thing or the other. And just because they fell at inspection or just because they fell at a certain time does not mean that that home is, a bad home, right? Just it didn't work out for the buyer. Something happened. I just went through all the reasons that contracts could terminate. So understand that you can put yourself in a backup position to win that offer when it comes back on. In some ways, depending on how your agent writes the contract, you can actually execute a backup offer that then moves into first position without even going back on the market. So essentially, if a contract terminates, the seller's obligated to go into your contract, move your contract into first position. And so those are absolutely massive opportunities for buyers to get in. Also understand, as a buyer on the front end, don't give away the farm. You don't have to go crazy. You do have to write a strong offer and make sure that the offers you are writing are within your needs and within your expectations of what it's going to be. But understand that some of these are coming back, and you can be on your toes and you can be aware. And a lot of people give up hope when that dream home goes under contract. But the truth is, you get in there, you get into backup offer position, and it could come right to you next. So that's my advice to you. This is something that you want to look at. Don't worry, the market's not crashing. We just have a little bit more options as buyers out there, and they're utilizing those options and they're utilizing their rights within the Colorado contract, unfortunately, at a pretty high rate. So definitely keep your eye on this as something to come up. I will be putting this into my market reports on a monthly basis, just talking about the fallout rate and talking about that, because I think it's an opportunity for a lot of people who may be a little bit, beat up by the market at some point. So I hope this helps. Please like, comment, subscribe, follow me over on Instagram, YouTube, all of the places, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.